everybody, and welcome back to LaFlamme Throwers Sports NFL Draft Analysis. And this is our post-draft analysis, and we are joined by our two co-hosts, Steve True North and Frog, and I am the draft doctor, John Kitchens. So let's start out, guys, with some news. Steve, run us through headlines.
You bet. So the big one is obviously the draft. I'm guessing most people watching this tuned in because a heck of a lot of people did. Expectedly, we broke a record last night. The 2020 draft had a total of 15.6 million viewers, which broke the record that had previously been set in 2014 with 12.4 million. I don't think it's very surprising. I think we've all been missing sports for a long time. So the draft being the first semblance of a sporting event had a lot of people excited for it. But I'll tell you one interesting thing about those statistics. If you look at the top 10 cities that were tuned in.
Top 10 cities.
Yep. I'll tell you one interesting thing. If you look at the top 10 cities that were tuned into the draft, the top 3 were all in the state of Ohio.
Every time.
Right? Yep. Cleveland was the number one market, giving credit where credit's due. That's a great football.
Every time.
Yeah. Cleveland was number 1. Columbus was number 2. Without an NFL team, that might surprise some people, but let's not forget that is the home of the Ohio State University. The top 3 picks in the draft all had Buckeye connections, either immediate players that came out of Ohio State or Joe Burrow, who had transferred out. And Cincinnati came in with a 15.6 rating in the 3rd spot. So I'll run down the top 10 just to give everybody an idea of how that panned out. But following Columbus, Cleveland, and Cincinnati, we had Philadelphia, Kansas City, Jacksonville, Atlanta, Charlotte, Denver, and Nashville and Milwaukee were both tied in the 10th spot. So I thought that was pretty interesting. The state of Ohio came strong last night, leading the record setting draft.
What I find is fascinating about this is that it's surprising that the 3 Ohio cities would be the top 3 cities because there's no mystery. I mean, all 3 know how this is going to play out. You're going to have Cincinnati's going to draft Joe Burrow. Columbus, Joe Burrow is going to get drafted by Cincinnati. I guess they could see where Okudah goes and whatnot. And you know that Cleveland's going to draft somebody and not win. So you basically know what's going to happen if you're in any one of those 3 cities.
Cleveland wins draft day.
They do.
Except for when they take a tackle, and then everybody's loving it because they did the smart thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can say the Bengals were down for all the 90s, and I can clearly remember the draft being the one day that was full of hope every year. That was your Christmas morning. So, yeah, a heck of a record-setting draft. We all tuned in. I'm sure we're going to get into our impressions of how it was done. But kudos to the state of Ohio occupying the top 3 spots on the top 10 largest metro areas of the United States.
Well, that's fascinating, Steve. So let's get right into the draft analysis. And obviously at the top of the draft, the big thing was quarterbacks. And let's start this off by figuring out or talking about which quarterback is in the best fit. And Steve, give us your thought on the best fit for quarterback.
Right. So it's not going to surprise you or anybody based on yesterday's call. And my answer is not always going to be Joe Burrow. But in this instance, I will say that I believe it's Joe Burrow simply because he fits in well. The system that Zach Taylor runs, kind of that West Coast hybrid that he brought with him from the Rams to Cincinnati, is not completely dissimilar from what Joe Burrow ran at LSU. I think he's stepping into a situation where the team's ready to embrace him. There are no controversies like we might see with some other teams, and everybody seems to be on the same page, along with having 3 weeks for the coaching staff and Joe Burrow to speak before the draft. So, I think my vote will be Joe Burrow. I think he's in the best situation to come in. He's healthy, and I think he's going to be primed to do well.
What do you think, Frog?
So what I would say with the positive with Joe Burrow is, Cincinnati does have some weapons. So that's a positive. But I really am excited for Tua. I don't know why. I just like Tua as a person. And then the talent was like literally once I got it in my mind, he's Steve Young. But I know Chan Gailey, know him. I was fortunate enough to be with him at Buffalo when he was there. Spent a lot of time with him, and whenever he talked ball around me, I just listened, soaked it up, and that guy has made every quarterback successful, regardless of their talents and their ability. And here Tua gets to step in there. And the best thing is that Tua won't have to play right away because Chan has a history with Fitzpatrick. And he's not going to rush it if physically Tua is organizationally the Dolphins. Let's give them some love. That organization is lockstep in making their decisions, from Chris Greer to their head coach. I think there's a very awesome positive synergy that's going on in South Florida. And then when they purposely got rid of their previous offensive coordinator to bring on Chan this year, it was for the long game of, we need somebody to develop a new quarterback, and who's the best at developing quarterbacks regardless of talent, because Miami didn't know specifically how it would fall to them at 5 because they hired Chan before, knowing how the draft board might fall. And Chan will coach them up. Whatever their talent is, he's going to get them in positions to succeed. And then if they're a little bit talent under, he gets them in positions to succeed. So I'm excited to death about Tua and when he gets his time.
And do you think Tua is the best quarterback, minus the injuries, the best, most talented quarterback that Chan Gailey's had a chance to work with?
Coming out of college, I will say yes. Coming out of college, yes. But you got to remember, he had some years that he made Cordell Stewart a very good football player. Like, people forget about those Pittsburgh years. So, Chan maximizes the talent. It would have been wonderful to see Chan with an elite quarterback talent, but I don't believe we ever gave him one. I know, no offense. God, this sounds awful. No offense. We didn't give him one in Buffalo. And then his other offensive coordinator stops along the way. He didn't have that either because he had been the Dolphins coordinator way back in the past. And it's escaping my mind whether it was the Jay Fiedler years or whoever it was. But this is one, the dude already has talent and ability to make plays. So thank you for that question. But I think this is the best guy that he's getting showing up talent-wise from day one.
Well, that should give Dolphins fans a lot of hope. Now, let's spin this the other direction, and let's talk about the real housewives of Green Bay, as I'm going to call it. And that is the decision by the Green Bay Packers to trade up to take Love when they've got Aaron Rodgers. Is this just a huge mistake? And keep in mind, by the way, that they really haven't gotten Aaron Rodgers any talent in the first round or two from a receiving, tight end, running back standpoint in forever. Are they asking for trouble? We'll start with you, Frog. What do you think about that decision?
All right. Here's a question I'm going to pose to you. What if I told you could have a quarterback that can win you, let's say there's 4 total games, and they're going to be able to win you 2 to 3 of them. So they break 500 or they go 3-1. Is that, would you want to take that? Not forever, just for a 1 year short sample size, a starter gets hurt. Would you want your backup to break 500 or better?
Oh yeah. And you've got to. Yeah.
Absolutely. So with that being said, the talent of Jordan Love is for the possibility of the future, but also you need to have a good backup ready to go. That's why New Orleans gave all that money to Teddy Bridgewater and they went undefeated with them. And you can't put a price tag on wins. What are wins worth? 10 million, 15 million? I don't know. But regardless, if Aaron Rodgers was to be injured and they like this person's talent, not just long game, short game too, to put him out there, I think it's a good pick. And yes, it's going to rub Aaron the wrong way, but I think you should have those conversations with your starting quarterback. Hey, I know what you're going to hear from the media, but you're Aaron bleeping Rodgers. You don't lack in confidence. What we need to do is protect and secure. For some reason, if you get injured, the drop-off isn't going to be so much to where we go 1-3, 0-4 if you miss a quarter of the season. So that is why I like that move, but they have to communicate that to Aaron, because Aaron's going to be disappointed that he didn't get a weapon. And he's like, hey, and then you can fluff up his ego by saying, you make every player a weapon, Aaron Rodgers, because you've done it for over a decade.
I love it. Steve, do you think Aaron Rodgers is going to take Jordan Love under his wing and train him up?
I think Aaron Rodgers is going to treat Jordan Love like family. So, I think the answer to that is no. I think everybody knows that's where the drama is going to come from. Aaron Rodgers does not seem to be the kind of guy that is going to embrace having an understudy, somebody to fill his shoes. I think it could get ugly. I'm curious to see how they handle this. I thought Frog Steak was really interesting. I'm sure there's a lot of ego massaging that's going to have to take place. And it also makes me wonder, is there something up their sleeve we don't know about? I don't know what they're going to do on day 2, but there have been rumors about several receivers that might get traded. OBJ from Cleveland. Is Green Bay going to do something out of left field to give Aaron the weapon he's looking for? And they just felt like they didn't need to do it via the draft. So, no, I don't think it's going to go well from that perspective. Frog, I wish you had that job to try to make Aaron okay with this, because it seems like that's going to be a challenge. But get your popcorn ready. It will be fun to watch. So I'm looking forward to it from that angle.
Yeah, I really think that that Love needs someone who's going to take him under their wing. You see some of the plays that he makes, and it's really about decision-making, reading defenses and things like that. There's no doubt he's got arm talent. I mean, tremendous arm talent. You almost wish that he was paired with kind of an aging, Peyton Manning or somebody, although Peyton's so competitive that I could even see Peyton, trying to beat out the young guy as far as that goes. So who's to say?
Can I share something?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Frog.
I'll leave it like this. With someone like Aaron Rodgers or Peyton or Brady and all those people, they are competitive, but there is something to be, if they feel like a guy is working, that really will be helpful in that person's shoes to get in like at least a good relationship, and then they can feel like, hey, he's working, and I can feel the sense like he might end up replacing me, but I don't want to be a complete jerk to undermine their career because I was that person 12 years ago. But they really have to go into like, I'm going to work, and a little bit of ego check hat in hand. And that is something that you need to cultivate as an organization to the player, to share it with Aaron, but that player has to be genuine, because Aaron's going to be in that quarterback room with Jordan Love every day this year. So that's an every day he's got to earn it thing. He can't have like one slacking day. And if he shows up every day trying to earn it and get better, Aaron will respect the game. And Aaron, he's such a competitor. He's like, oh, you'll play when I'm finished, and I'll tell you, and you'll know when I'm finished, and hopefully it's 5 years from now and you never play. And that is what Brett Favre had in him for competitive. But Green Bay saw that they had actually the smartest quarterback and physically the most talented quarterback, so they moved a little bit sooner in that situation. But most people, though, they can keep those guys. I mean, you got to remember, Frank Reich had a lot of talent. This is way back when. And he came in hat in hand, very humble, won a lot of games for the Bills when Kelly wasn't down, was even including the biggest comeback. And that was a great relationship. And Frank Reich had over a decade-plus career. So there's ways that this can work out, in my opinion. You just got to really be in lockstep about it.
Rob, a question that Steve and I were talking about earlier before you got on was, is there any benefit to scheme fit and coaching if you're an offensive tackle? In other words, can we look at those top 4 tackles and can we say this guy's more likely to be successful and this person's more likely to fail based on the people that are around them?
Very good. That's a very good question, because the thing is, like, when tackles are taken high, it's because they have ability, like athletic ability. And then the other aspect is, like, they must have shown some sort of, like, they can also play at a high level. And with that being said, like, scheme can be helpful. So the guy that the Browns took, he was a right tackle at Alabama, but that was like to his blind side. So they're going to try him out at left, and that works out. Tyron Smith at USC, and so on. But if for some reason, so this is why you would prefer to take a tackle as opposed to a guard. If they struggle and tackle on that island, then you can kick them inside as long as they have that toughness and nasty. And that's where the scheme can be helpful, because if you have yourself a very good staff that has a synergy of like, hey, we'll find a way to get the best players on that field to kick a guy inside. And then if you have yourself end up being like a good guard as opposed to that tackle that you took in the first round, well, if they become a good pro for some years, man, that's a win. I mean, these rookie contracts are so much less than what it costs when you got to pay for good veterans on their second contract.
So if we had to say scheme fit for these guys and looking at the top 4 tackles, and we'll ask Steve first. Steve, which tackle do you think is most likely to succeed?
Well, you know, I don't get as granular as Frog does on the scheme fit front. I know we were talking earlier, Kitch, and I can't think of many. And Frog, I'm deferring to your expertise here, and I mean that sincerely. I just can't think of any tackles historically that jump off the top of my head that, you know, have come out highly rated, gone to a team and not really popped, but then gone to a different team and done much better. I'm sure both of you can, I can't. So I'm just going off the same take I had heading into this, which is I'm really intrigued by Mekhi Becton. The guy's size amazes me. His athleticism amazes me. You know, I get some people have some concerns with him, but you know, he's the one that intrigues me. I think he's the one that I would put my marker on as far as having the most upside.
Frog, what do you think?
Well, there's something to be said about all that size and athletic ability to excite you. And the thing is, though, if for some reason he struggles out on that island, you know, noticing which person's hot coming from the outside, you can kick him inside, and he can be a road grader just because of that size. I mean, if he wants it, if he's tough and wants it and is a professional. So those are the things that that can work out, that should excite you about if you're the Jets and you took Mekhi Becton. Like, hey, you expect him. You took him that high to be your left tackle. But it is a nice little insurance policy if you got to kick him inside. Now, you don't take a tackle in the first round with, like, we're going to move him to guard. That is, like, the backup plan. But you want to hope that they have that nasty if for some reason they got to get kicked inside, if it just doesn't click out in tackle, they're not able to handle the outside rush or pick it up as quickly, which guy's hot, then you can move them on inside and it becomes a little bit easier for those dudes. So there's with the tackles that were taken, I really think this is where O-line coaches, and some of them O-line coaches are getting paid north of $1 million a year as a position coach. It's a hell of a country for that to happen, but it's happening. Earn your money. Let's go. Earn your money.
So for me, I would say that I really like Wirfs. I'm a Iowa fan. I feel like he looked great at the combine, but most importantly, he has the best pocket presence passer in the league in Tom Brady, who just knows how to step up and avoid the rush. And then he's got Gronkowski and O.J. Howard there to kind of chip and help and whatnot. So I think he's going to have the easiest time of it. Plus with Bruce Arians, he'll be able to hopefully scheme around him being a rookie. I think he would be successful anywhere, but I think he's just in the best situation. All right, so moving along, we have 2 more segments. Let's do winners and losers from round 1. So here's the rules. You cannot pick a team that someone else picked. So, Steve, let's start out with you. Who's your winner for round 1?
So my winner is going to be Tampa Bay, and a lot of it I think is fate just falling in their lap. But Tristan Wirfs on a lot of draft boards was the top tackle available from things I was reading beforehand. Kitch, I agree with you. Watching him play at Iowa, he was impressive. And to see who I thought was going to be neck and neck with Andrew Thomas for the number one tackle taken, slipped down to being the fourth tackle taken. He fell into Tampa Bay's lap at 13. And I think largely just for situational reasons, for Tampa being in the situation they are, with greatest quarterback of all time, who just, needs to make sure he stays healthy and upright, with Gronk having joined them. I think Tristan Wirfs sliding to them at 13 was a no-brainer, and I think he fits in nicely. So when it comes to winners, I'm going with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
And Frog, who's your winner from the draft?
What I love about this is a lot of people, it's easy to do the winners for teams that have multiple picks. And I love the fact that Steve didn't say a team with multiple picks, and I'm not going to either. So this is great. I'm going with Baltimore Ravens, Patrick Queen. And here's where people get very envious of good organizations. And when they pick later in the draft, they took the number one inside linebacker at their pick, which I believe was at 28. And that's where most teams are are you bleeping kidding me? They just got themselves a guy that's going to step in and start and be a ball player at 28. So they didn't have to go through all that hard losing and tough year and posturing and coaching change and organizational change. They got themselves a guy that's going to show up, be instinctive and start. And they got a history of those guys always tend to do well by taking the linebackers, guys that love football, coming from history, winning traditions. So my person, Patrick Queen, Baltimore Ravens winner. Number one inside linebacker at pick 28. That's great. They got their A-level guy at 28.
That's awesome. So my winner of this draft was Dallas, with CeeDee Lamb. When you look at it, over the last couple of years, CeeDee Lamb arguably, and I think you could argue for Jerry Jeudy, maybe Ruggs, but CeeDee Lamb arguably is the best wide receiver to come out in the last 2 years, and maybe if we count next year in a 3-year period. Getting a guy that so complements Amari Cooper. Amari, a great route runner, great hands, but then you've got CeeDee Lamb, who's more of that DeAndre Hopkins, just uber athletic, talented guy that can run after the catch. Just seems like a perfect mix. And then you throw in Dak Prescott, you throw in that offensive line that they've got, and Ezekiel Elliott. And I really think that you may have an offense, if you're a Dallas fan, that could rival the Kansas City Chiefs.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, so
CeeDee Lamb's strong.
Yeah, and for him to fall that far, to 17, just manna from heaven for the Dallas Cowboys. So now let's reverse that, and let's go with draft losers. Frog, who do you think was your loser from round one?
Oh, man. So here we are talking tackles, and I got to give the Giants a hard time for taking a tackle at their spot, because at that spot and position, and the fire is under Gettleman. He self-put that fire on himself, but also others. And just to take a guy that you're hoping that will be a very good player at best, a Pro Bowl player at tackle, but those guys don't change. They don't change an entire side of the ball. Because of where they're picking. So with that being said, is there that much of a drop-off from the guy that they took at 4 versus Wirfs at Tampa Bay in the mid-teens? Is there? Now, maybe, like Joe Thomas, there was a heck of a big difference. But at the same time, though, those tackles, they don't make plays that can win a game. You're just happy about their steady and consistency. And I think when you're inside of the top 10, you need guys that can win you games. And that was my loser, was the Giants. Sorry, G-Man.
Steve, you're up. Who's your loser?
Yep. So this is related a bit to Frog's winner with Baltimore, Patrick Queen. I agree that was a great pick, Frog. And Baltimore does not have a bad track record when it comes to drafting or developing linebackers. Conversely, the Seattle Seahawks are my loser of the draft. I don't really understand the Jordan Brooks pick. Jordan Brooks out of Texas Tech. He's more of a throwback linebacker, great against the run, but can struggle significantly in coverage. In a division like the NFC West, that puzzles me. That seems like it could be a recipe for disaster. So, using your first round pick on a linebacker that can struggle in coverage, it's just a head scratcher. So they get to wear the dunce cap, in my opinion. Biggest losers of the Seattle Seahawks from round one.
It's a great take, Stephen. My take, and I alluded to this earlier, is going to be Green Bay taking Jordan Love. Now, I'll say this on multiple levels. The first thing that I'll say is some of this may be sour grapes because I am a Colts fan. Lots of talk about the Colts maybe getting Love to drop to him in the second round. So there's a part of me that actually really wanted to see him and his potential with the Indianapolis Colts. So full disclosure there. But honestly, I think when you trade up to get a guy like that, and you put Rodgers in this very difficult situation, not just with someone behind him, but when you don't get him the talent that's there, and this is such an unbelievable wide receiver, draft year, that you just sort of turned a blind eye. And remember, you traded, so there's a chance you're not going to be able to get him as much talent in the later rounds because you had to make that move up. I just feel like that was a pretty big reach. Now, if Jordan Love comes in and is does an Aaron Rodgers to Aaron Rodgers, and in 3 years is the next Patrick Mahomes, we'll all stand corrected and say it was a great move. But honestly, I just think that was a perplexing move. So last segment, hot takes for round 2. And Steve, last night you proclaimed that the perfect draft for the Bengals was Joe Burrow throwing to T. Higgins. You've got the top pick at round 2. You're going for T. Higgins, right?
No, I think you're spinning my words a little bit. I hope this is the beginning of a constant struggle I'm going to have to battle. I believe that my exact words were that T. Higgins intrigued me the most out of the group of receivers we were talking about. What I didn't expect was Josh Jones to still be on the board when we're coming in with the 33rd pick. If I'm pulling the trigger for the Bengals tonight, I'll tell you right now, if Patrick Queen would not have been drafted by Baltimore, I think he would have snuck in there as a dark horse pick. The Bengals have already come out and said with their second round pick, they don't care which side of the ball it's on, but whoever they draft will be expected to be a starter. I think they were hoping that could have been Patrick Queen. Now that it's not, I'm going to go with Jones out of Houston. I think we could use the help on the offensive line. This is obviously the year of Burrow in Cincinnati, so almost similar to Tom Brady for different reasons. I think we need to do everything we can to shore him up. So I'm going to go with Jones over Higgins at 33, but I won't be completely disappointed if we do go with the T.
Frog, what do you think? What's your hot take for round 2?
If I remember correctly, I don't think there's been a safety taken yet. So that means all the states want, here's your chance to go get them. And due to all my Northeast Ohioans that are like, we need a safety, and they do, and the whole rumors with Odell and trade even up for that safety out of Minnesota, here's your chance, Browns, go get that safety. I think so many people in Northeast Ohio would just be screaming with enthusiasm, and they all love an excuse to have a good time and have some drinks, although we're social distancing smartly here in Ohio. So drinks by yourself and Zoom in your buddies would be Antone Winfield Jr. And a little bit of that is because his father's from Akron. And so like a little bit of Northeast Ohio taste and flavor. And there's just something about him with all those interceptions. I'm sorry, if you get interceptions in college, you get interceptions in the NFL. It just tends to work. It's worked that way. And he's weirdly built, reminding me nowhere near the dynamic athlete of Earl Thomas, but weirdly built similar to him. And I think whoever gets him should be excited. And I bet Cleveland is just like hoping for them to take the best safety on their board. And if their board has him as the best guy or other safeties, that's what their fingers are crossed for. So that's my hot take. Whoever takes the best safety on the board, which I think those guys are going to start coming off pretty soon. Will the Browns be able to take the first one? We'll find out tonight.
And as for me, I think my hot take as a Colts fan is we got the second pick of the second round, and we have our choice of things. And it'll really be very telling as far as what Chris Ballard and the Colts want to do going forward. If there are rumors out there that they're looking to trade Malik Hooker, they have the safeties available. So if they take a safety with that first or second pick of the second round, you pretty much, I think the writing's on the wall for Malik, and I hate it because he's such an uber talented guy. They have their choice of wide receivers. I mean, you have guys like Higgins, you have Mims, you have Pittman. I mean, there's just a ton of talent that's there. That's a need position for them. You have the defensive end out of Iowa that slid down and can slide him inside to tackle. If Josh Jones falls, we've got Costanzo signed up for another couple of years. He could be an adequate replacement for him. So I'm really interested to see where the Colts go with that second pick. Something tells me that they may trade down, and then all bets are off. But at the same time, you got to trust in the management and leadership there. So we will be back tomorrow with our hot takes from tonight's round 2 and round 3 of the draft. And thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe.